What's up? This is Doob solo for Doomed and Stoned, and today I'm talking with all-star doom metal drummer Henry Vasquez. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, you're welcome, obviously.
Henry, you've played drums with Saint Vitus, The Skull,
Yep,
Sour
yep,
Vein, Spirit Caravan,
yep,
and your band Blood of the Sun. And
yep.
recently you've added Legions of Doom and Pentagram to that list. Let's start off with a question about Pentagram. What can people expect from the new material?
Well, we tried to make it a little bit for everyone. We wrote some hard rock songs. We wrote some really slow songs. We wrote some mid tempo, some faster songs, and there were some that Bobby wouldn't buy into. So he's got that kind of game face on.
Mm,
So I think he's ready to go. I think he's in a good place. He had a lot of fun with us. And I
nice.
think that was one of the main things is we were just trying to keep it fun and keep it, riding. And we all worked on it together as a team. Bobby, Tony, and I, all three of us
Mhm.
kind of put it together. And then Scooter came in and put in the bass afterward. That's just the way they, Scooter's in Moss Generator as well.
Mhm.
And they have a system that they've been using. And I think he's been jamming with Scooter for 20, 30 years already. So it was kind of a deal where they have a system and we didn't, we just went along with whatever system Tony used. We put everything in Tony's hands for him to kind of, you know, figure out how everything was done, whatever works best for him and most efficient. But
Yeah.
between me and Bobby and Tony, we worked as a team on everything. We tried different things and some things worked, some things didn't, but for the most part, they worked. Um, we kind of just didn't really know what Bobby wanted and didn't really know which way to go with songwriting as far as that was. And we just kind of, the end of it, we ended up writing what we wrote. And then Bobby came in and goes, yeah, I like that one. Let's try this one. I like that one. Let's try this one. And he was real submissive to ideas. And he was real submissive to being a team player on it and just trying to get the thing done in an efficient time. When I talked to him in the beginning, he was kind of, he really didn't know how it was going to go. He didn't know Tony, and he's never worked with Tony, and he never even met Tony. So when he came in, he was just like, well, I don't know how things are going to go. I was like, well, Tony's real easy to work with. And from the time we picked him up from the airport to the time we finished, we all bonded and had a great time and completed a record.
And how much
And I
time did
played it
that
for a couple.
take? It was less than 2 weeks, wasn't it?
Tony came down here. Tony came down here first a year ago, back when Bobby still had his band going, and he spent 4 days down here, and we wrote, I think, like 11 songs, and did an old Pentagram song, and I think we did like Strange Ways off of Hotter Than Hell, the Kiss album. We did all these songs and just kind of had them ready and thought it might be interesting to hear what Bobby sounded like on that. We never got to that, of course, but everything else we kind of had, and we had it for a year, and Bobby's like, yeah, man, let me deal with my band. He goes, I don't jump ship on my band. He's really loyal to everybody in his band, and he
Hmm.
waited until it disintegrated. And once it disintegrated, he gave me the call and was like, hey, let's try to put it together. I said, all right, I got it. So I made plans to come back up and revisit these songs with Tony and write some more songs. And when I came back up, I think we wrote, I don't know, 10, 11 songs again on top of the ones we already had. So we just kind of put it all together and put it in and let's see what Bobby likes, because we really didn't know where Bobby wanted to go with anything.
Hmm.
So he got there and Bobby just started picking and choosing. And there was a couple of, we went all over the map. So we had some fast songs, and Bobby pretty much said, I don't do Slayer, but I don't think it was Slayer. It was more just really heavy and kind of fast. But he was like, I'm not really into that. So fine, let's move to the next one. We have enough to choose from. We just kept going and kept going and kept going. And then at the end of it, I think we got 13 songs done, including an old Pentagram song
Nice.
with
Very
vocals.
nice.
So
So
there's
it's
still
been
like
a
four or
long
five,
time
maybe six
coming. Oh,
lingering
sorry.
around. Yeah.
Five
No,
or
you're
six.
good. Go.
Okay. So it's been a long time coming, but the process of recording and getting this all put together has been pretty quick, right?
Yeah. And it was like we were under the gun to do stuff, and we knew that, and we had to do the best we could with what we had. And I think, this record was promised to Heavy Psych maybe a while back. I don't know all the dates. I wasn't involved in it and wasn't in the promise making, but when I got involved, I was like, okay, well, let's do it. Me and Tony can write really fast and we can be pretty efficient. But I was like, well, I don't want to just hustle through something just for the sake of doing it. And then he got that. I was like, well, it's not 1980. I was like, we can actually get in here, get through stuff. Tony can piece stuff together if we don't like it and figure things out later and just get your vocal tracks and the drum tracks, and Tony can work it from there, which Tony's really good at everything he does. So there was no doubt in my mind. But I think once Bobby got there, met Tony, saw how efficient everything was, because in the beginning he goes, well, I can maybe do one song a day. And Bobby ended up coming in and knocking out the first day. I think he knocked out 3. The second day he knocked out 4. The third day, I think he had 2, that were a little bit rougher, a little bit harder. And we weren't trying to push him so we could finish it. We didn't want him blowing his voice out, but he was really giving it all he had. And the next day, I think we did 3. We just kept going. And then the last couple of days, we just kind of went back over everything and made sure everything was as good as it could possibly be, and just kind of checked back over it again, and saw if it was going to sink or float with everything he had, made sure he was done. And he was able to actually go back home. He didn't have to come to Texas. So I think as a whole, me and Tony were really happy with everything, and so was Bobby. So I think it was like we were kind of just celebrating, having a good time, and we completed something we set out to do, and we actually did it. It was a good vibe. It was fun. I think Bobby hadn't felt that kind of, his opinions on stuff and what he thought, and we'd sit down and we'd discuss it, and Tony would mention his reasoning and I'd mention my reasoning, and we'd all come to somewhat of a gentleman's agreement on everything, and it moved forward and moved collectively really fast. That's like great. It needed to, because we really didn't have time to sit there and ponder with it or go back and forth. And it's a lot of its first thoughts were completed, and we just followed through with them until it was done. And I think that Tony had a song that he had written 10 years ago, and funny enough, he called it Penamos or something like that, because it sounded so much like pentagram. And it was funny, and I was like, well, Bobby, let's listen to this, and what do you think? He goes, oh, I want to do that one. So he was like, yeah, let's do that, So we ended up doing that one. We had a bunch of other ones all over the map. Can't say that we put our finger on one style or one kind of anything. We just kind of went with it. And it was like, we really didn't have time I think Tony stopped and he was like, man, I'm trying to be as a listener too, and make sure that the listener and the audience that buys Pentagram albums is going to like it, Mm-hmm. And I was like, look, I said, this is what's on the top of my head and top of your head. Let's just record it, complete it, and that way we can clear our head and move to the next set of riffs or next set of ideas without that being stuck in the head. Mm-hmm. And we ended up doing a lot of that, and it just came out, and sure enough, like the one's kind of Hendrix, kind of Trower song, and that was the icebreaker. We did it, and Tony's like, man, this really doesn't sound like. I said, look, let's just record it, and then we'll move on. And then when we got in, it was kind of like, we'd never done anything. Bobby didn't know how it was going to go, and Bobby heard it. He goes, hey, I think I could do that. Let's just do that. So that ended up being an icebreaker for everything, and making him like, hey, this isn't that hard. This is pretty easy. We can muscle right through this. So it was everything happened, and it kind of happened for a reason. It wasn't like we set out to make that song a pentagram song, but it ended up being a entryway to kind of just push us through to keep going and seeing how easy and efficient it could be. Mm-hmm. And Tony gets great sounds just right off the board. Yes. So Bobby's like, wow, that was, Bobby was like, he'd listen to the song, he writes strange, where I would be like, let me listen to the song and write to the song and write to the melody. Bobby's kind of more like, I won't say poetry, but he writes words, and then he figures out how to fit them into the song. And I'm like, well, you've been doing this since the 70s. I'm not going to knock or tell you how to write songs, so obviously. Mm-hmm. So if that works for you and you know how to do that, let's do it that way. And that was one of the ones he just came in and did right off the bat. And it didn't take, I think we were done. Some of the things were done in 2 takes, and we were finished. And he just laid it on top. And then I think we had so many songs, he was kind of like, he's like, I said, do you want help? Me and Tony can both help write lyrics and stuff. And he's like, he goes, I usually take care of all my own stuff. He goes, but man, this is a lot of stuff. And I was like, look, dude, it's a lot for us to just go, here, Bobby, here's 18 songs, write lyrics and make them cool,
Yeah. Yep.
And we ended up I would stay up late and I'd write some songs and I'd demo vocal them and get them ready. And then the next day he goes, let me hear it. And I'm like, all right. So you can change what you want. It's just an outline. He ended up just grabbing hold of it and just making it his own. And it was freaking fantastic. He's like, man, I would have never wrote that. I would have never thought to do that. I would have never used that as a chorus. I would have never done that. And it was like, hey, this is fun. It started turning into fun. And then he was like, I'm going to change this. I'm like, do what you want to do with it. It was real simple. It was really like a team effort, so to speak. And Bobby was a team player the whole time. And with all that, instead of being, resistant to stuff, he just went with the flow, and it made everything really, really, you're going to hear like a different side of Bobby's vocal and different side of just things instead of the usual, but it has that in it. And he knew where to put his Bobby isms into things and make it pentagram, no matter what. Because, I mean, you can look at through the 70s, 80s, and then even the 90s, like the Sub-Basement, the 2000 era Sub-Basement stuff. It's always pentagram, but it's always a little bit different, And that's the thing that me and Tony had to come to grasp with. Like, we're not going to rewrite Relentless, and we're not going to rewrite First Stage. We can have hints and touches of that, but we're not going to be able to satisfy everybody to go, and this doesn't sound like Victor, and this doesn't sound like Vincent, It's just going to be what it's going to be. And pentagram has phases and different, different times and different things with pentagram. And I guess this is this one. So without, and we did try to touch upon that stuff, and we did make a really slow song because we didn't want the guys, oh, this isn't doom, where Bobby doesn't actually like that word. He's a hard rock guy at heart, but I think that, people expect stuff and they want things, and they have expectations when you're using your hard-earned money to buy a record or something. They want to know that something's going to be on there for, and I think we kind of made it where there was something for everyone on there.
Perfect. That sounds
You may
great.
see a lot of different styles and a lot of different things. Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. I mean, I've come to expect that from Tony, and if he's on this project, it seems like his style is to bring that diversity. I think it's great that all you guys got together and were able to have fun and be fluid and organic with your process. And also, it sounds cool that you guys were surprised too how well you worked together, not knowing what to expect, and then having it go so well. Hopefully that translates into the music, and we're able to sense that energy coming through. I'm sure we will.
I mean, I've gotten together with Tony on stuff and written records with Tony in it, and we did it within a week. So I knew we were able to do it, but we actually had a style and knew what we were doing. This is kind of like, hey, we have a lot of people to answer to. We have Bobby to answer to. We have the fans to answer to. We have Bobby's ex-band members kind of listen to it. We have people that I've played with and Tony's played with, and people that have expectations of what we should or could or wanted, or, so it's kind of like we had to scramble and move all over the map just to try to, I think we just made a real effort to try to do that rather than just write something that was totally out of left field.
Yeah. Or to follow a recipe that wasn't really going to work for you as a group together.
Yeah. I mean, and I think Tony was the main thing that he was like, but I mean, I think he always reverted to go into his, what he knew and what he did. And there would be times like we get to a certain point and he'd look at me and goes, what now? And I'm like, I got something. I'd pull out my phone and just listen to riffs I hum to myself when I'm bored or thinking or hear something like, hey, I think that riff might be, this sounds like a good thing. And I go, how about this? And he goes, let's try it. And boom, there it was. I mean, it was that back and forth. What do I got? Well, what do you got? Well, hey, I hear this. Well, I hear this. And it was like, it was never, I think when I got here, I said, what do you got? He goes, man, I hadn't really got nothing. I was like, okay, well, let's try this and let's try this. Or I'll just start going, I'd like to start off with something like this and move into something that he did. And then it just kind of built like that. with every song, and it just kept coming, and it was, I guess stars were aligned for it or something, because it just made it real simple, and we were able to do things, and it was, you know, first takes on a lot of stuff. You know, it was just like whatever came out came out.
Yeah.
And that's where that. And then Bobby's like, "This is great. This is amazing. It was fantastic that he was submissive to all the ideas and different styles." And I think a couple of them, he's like, "I hate Doom. You really going to make me do that?" And I was like, "Come on, jump on." I was like, I said, "Look, man," I said, "there's been things where Elton John was ready to throw away Benny and the Jets, and they made him do it, and it became one of his best songs." I was like, "You got to think that you got to try things. And, you know, if you just play ball and try stuff, you never know what's going to come out.
Yeah.
So let's just try it and see. We're under the gun." And man, I'm like, Jesus, what if you wouldn't have done that? What if you'd have said no? What if you'd have put your foot down on that? And those 3 or 4 of those are like the best, in my opinion, the best songs. But the good thing that I've noticed, Bobby has a whole set of different songs he thinks are great. I have a whole set of songs that I think are great. And when I let a couple of people hear, and like, "Well, that's the song," and I'm like, "Really?" But so that's good to me. That's a good sign that there may be things that I don't think are up to par. I didn't think were that great. And then I got the guitar parts changed up and some stuff changed up, and Tony went back and rethought out a lot of stuff, and all he had was a basic drum tracks. And now I get him back, I'm like, wow. And then Bobby, I'd write stuff and I was like, well, I'm pretty good up to here. This part just kind of, I'm not 100% on it. He goes, "Don't worry about it. I got it." He'd step in there. I'm like, Jesus Christ, Bobby. I was like, that's my favorite part of the song now. What the part that I hated or was unsure of, he just came in and put little Bobby magic on it and spit shined it and made it glow like a diamond. I was like, Jesus, man, that you turn that into a whole different outlook or perspective. And just, he's been doing it for so long, I don't see how he couldn't, you know.
Yeah.
But I didn't have really high expectations and stuff, and then things just came to light, you know.
It's great that
I don't know how else to explain it, you know.
Yeah. Studio magic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Right. Well, let's change gears and talk about
Okay.
Legions of Doom.
Okay.
So for Legions of Doom, I understand that you all got together to honor the passing of your bandmate.
Well, me and Wino had talked about doing Spirit Caravan one more time, and then Sherman ended up dying, so we kind of put that to rest. So that probably won't happen. And I think Obsessed is actually doing some of the Caravan songs in their set. So then I guess we were on tour. It was the first tour after COVID, and I believe we were out with the Obsessed, and we were playing in Houston, and I saw some guy with a towel around his neck coughing into his towel and like blowing his nose, and I was like, "Oh God, I'm getting away from you." That's the first thing I thought, because we're just coming out of COVID. And right when he turned around, I saw him talk to Eric. I was like, "Oh God." And I think we got to Austin. Eric said he didn't feel good, and Eric ended up passing away at my house. We took an ambulance from my house because we all got COVID, every single one of us. And Eric didn't come back from it, so that stopped that. Obviously, we stopped, and then Ron got in a place where I think Dave Sweetapple, who just passed as well, I believe Ron told me that he kind of talked him into getting back on and trying it again. And at that point, Carl Eagle was the choice that we were going to make to replace or to continue. I won't say replace, to continue. And we didn't want to make it the Skull. We wanted to make it Legions of Doom, and we brought in Scott Riegers as well to just try to up the ante on the whole thing, because Vitus has been done for a while. So we ended up using Scotty as well. So we have 2 singers on the record, which TP's putting out. I think it'll be out right like the day of or the day before Ripple Fest. I think we have a single out, and the second single just came out. So yeah, I think Eric had a lot of ideas, and they were talking about doing another record. And, Eric was excited about doing records. He actually had a lot of lyrics already written and had ideas. He had acoustic versions. He had humming memos that he had sent the guys, like, I think this is a great melody, and he'd hum something to it. And I honestly thought that we were going to sit there and write a record together, all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And it ended up being, we're going to use all Eric's stuff just to pay tribute to him, all his ideas, his lyrics, his thoughts. So it was harder to do that. And I mean, I think we went to Steve Albini's right before he passed, maybe a month before he passed. And I was actually in the drum room where they did In Utero, which was kind of cool. It was a giant, like, it's, the ceilings were, 30 yards tall, and it was big, it was everything. And I was like, okay, what are we doing here? And we tried it to a click track, and I don't like click tracks. I don't like them because I get them and I understand why people do them, but to me, you lose a real feel on it, and you lose the accidental cool things that could happen by just playing. When you have a click track, you're more worried about that. Your swagger can be taken away from you by that. As far as my brain's thinking, I might do something cool, just feeling it naturally. So I kind of had to coax the guys out of doing that. And I think I told Lothar, I was like, man, you have a great monitor, you have a great meter. Why don't I just play to you? And that way it'll go through. And it actually started working. Once we started working like that, it went through. But he had all the riffs. I thought I was going to play with the whole band and we were going to do it. Instead, I just played with Lothar. That's it. So I never knew what somebody was going to do, or I didn't get to play off of the vocals or the bass or anything. It was just me and Lothar the whole time until I was done. And I think there was a song that Eric had written on an acoustic, and the guy took the vocals out and just used the vocals. So Lothar wrote a song around Eric's vocals. So there will be a guest appearance from Eric on the record as well.
Oh, wow. That's
cool. So it's weird.
Really cool.
It's like the ghost of Eric came in there and finished the song. I've been playing with those guys for years already, off and on, here and there, for years. And I don't think I ever got to do a record with Eric. So this would be my first record with Eric, actually. And somehow it worked out where we were able to, pull his vocal out of something. Lothar wrote a song just around the vocals. And it was weird to do that. And it was kind of, I won't say creepy, but it was just bizarre,
Yeah.
It was just, okay, that's what we're doing. Okay, let's do it. I mean, I just kind of played ball and just went with whatever idea and direction they wanted to go with, because I really didn't have anything else to deal with, There was nothing else I could have done, or any reference or anything. I just had to play to whatever. But I think as a whole, it came out good,
Yeah. So do you have a release date for that record?
I think it's right around Ripple Fest, like the 11th. I won't say 9/11. I think it's like 9/9 or something.
Awesome.
But I think Ripple Fest is like that weekend or something.
Yes. So excited for that. Do you have any other live dates going on around the festival?
Not with Legions. Legions of Doom, we're going to New York and playing Desert Fest, and then we're playing Boston and then North Carolina. And I come home, I start practicing for Pentagram and all that stuff. And then the guys fly in, we play Ripple Fest. I hit a U-turn after Ripple Fest, come home, fly in Pentagram. We start practicing that Saturday and leave Thursday for Europe. I think our first shows are in Spain. We have 2 shows in Spain with Monster Magnet and Unita. And then we fly to Greece, play 2 shows. I think it's Switzerland, something like that, and then Germany. And then we come back. Those are our first Pentagram shows, are all big, giant stuff, and we've never played together. So this is going to be it.
Right on.
And we come back, I think, right around Halloween. Halloween, we start in like Lafayette, and then we go to New Orleans and play with Phil's band Scour and Exhorter. We come back here, play Dallas, and then go to Austin and play with The Sword at Levitation.
Whoa. Wow, well, I'm
Yeah,
dizzy
so
just hearing about it. Sounds like you got
I
a
know.
big end of year coming. That's great. Um, well,
Yeah,
I'm curious. So you said you've been playing music with the guys in Legions of Doom for a long time. What's your favorite
yeah.
thing about playing live with those guys?
Well, I like that everybody's into it. I like that, I think that, there's just a little bit more unity within the band than with Vitus. Vitus was always kind of, David was a certain way, Wino was a certain way, Mark was a certain way. It was never like, I mean, we were friends, but there's more like we go eat together, we go have beers together, we go, walking around together. And the Vitus, just everybody just kind of went to their own thing and kind of did their own thing. It was too much to be around each other all the
Mm,
time, I guess. I don't know. There was never really any unity within that band. We all, I think we tried it, and I think we all wanted to do it, but it wasn't organic like that, like it is
mm,
with the Legions and the Skull guys. It's more like fun. We all see each other. We're all happy to see each other. We get in there and get everything going and kind of do it. Where Vitus was just like, I'll see you when I see you. We'll make a few phone calls in between, but it wasn't like we all hung out as much together, like on tour or even when we were in town. It was just everybody kind of did their own thing, so to speak. So
right
this
on.
is
So
kind of
you enjoy
cool.
the camaraderie and companionship of this
Absolutely.
group of people.
Absolutely.
Perfect. And do
Yeah.
you think that that
And they're,
chemistry comes out on stage when you're together?
I think we all have our own individual things. It's kind of weird. Everybody has their own personality on stage, and it's kind of we're all up there together. But I think everybody's got their own thing going with that. It's strange, and Vitus did too,
Mhm.
But Vitus was just a little bit strange and off than that. I think it's because everybody was in other things and involved in other things. Like Wino had so many different things he did, and when he came in, this was this version of Wino.
Mm, okay. So you've been making music professionally for over 2 decades, right? Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
How have your perspectives about making music and your gear choices changed over time?
I always want to do it, and I think it was the passion of it all. I don't never expected to get paid or anything from it, as most people don't. And I think as you move on, and I was always, I took advantage of opportunities when they were, you know, presented to me. I always took advantage of opportunities, thinking it might, go a little bit further, or somebody might go, "Hey, that guy's a good choice to maybe do this or this," and I followed that until I ended up in St. Vitus. I think Ron Halsner, I think I was playing in Sour Vein, Liz and Roy in 2001. We were in Chicago, and I think we played with Pelican. Pelican had just started back then, I believe. And Ron came to the show, and he's ended up, I guess a month later, Jimmy Bauer had some issues where he wasn't going to be able to play with him. And Ron ended up calling me, "Hey, I seen you play, with them at the Fireball Lounge or whatever." And he goes, "You want to jam with me and Chandler? We'll play, stuff like Discharge and this stuff with some Vitus songs and this kind." I was like, "Yeah, I'll do it." So I think he goes, "Man, here's 15 songs. You need to learn them by Thursday." And this was like on a Monday of the week before. He wanted me to learn them like in a week and a half. So I learned all 15 songs, drove up to Chicago, played with them, and I think they knew 8 when I got there. They didn't even know all 15. They just said 10. I was like, Jesus, okay. I wasted a lot of time and that trying to figure that out. But I ended up doing that tour with them. And then I think when Armando got ill, David was like, "Hey, we need somebody for Hellfest to fill in." And you already know, several of the Vitus songs from playing with us, because we do Vitus songs. Because you, the first guy, thought of you, interested. And I was like, "Yeah, I'll do it." So then again, here I am learning, another 10 or 15 songs. I maybe played 2 of them. And I get to Hellfest, and I think we practiced in some little place. Me, Mark, and David practiced like for a day. And then we're getting ready to play this show. My first show is a main stage between Motley Crue and Heaven and Hell. We're swapping stages, and I was like, Jesus, this can be my first show in front of all these people. And I think it's maybe an hour before we play, and Wino still hadn't showed up. There's no sign of him, nothing. So he was stuck somewhere trying to get through the gate and had no credentials or nothing. He was just he had taken a train or something, got there, and it's in the middle of nowhere. So he finally got through maybe 10 minutes before we were starting. He shows up, and boom, there we went. And that was it. We got through it, made it through it. And I think after that, that was all it was going to be, was that show. And then everybody was like, do you want to do more shows? And I'm like, yeah, let's do more shows. And then more shows turned to, let's write a record and tour. And I think we did a couple of years of touring, reunion tours. And then we ended up writing a record and doing that until it dissolved.
You started out willing to spend all this time learning these songs to get your opportunities. And what's different now?
I don't think anything. I'm still doing it. I just did it with Lucifer. I did the whole Lucifer tour. And then again, I found myself in the same boat of doing that all over again. I'm like, but you never know with things that go on. And you got COVID knocking things down. You got, different people are scared of presidents and elections and shutting things down again. I think we really all got spooked by it just going, watch, we can yank everything out from under you. It's possible, I guess is what I'm saying. It's not impossible, and it could happen. So I saw, man, you know what? I'm going to do this. They asked me to do it. I'm going to do it and have fun with it. And, this may be the thing where maybe this may be the last time I get to go do this again. I always look at it like that. This may be the last time I tour. This may be the last time I do this. This may be the last time I get to do this. So I always take advantage of anything like that if I can.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to put myself through the brutality of learning these songs every day, jamming with a band once or twice, and then bam, we're on tour. And that's what it's been.
Yeah. And when we look at it on paper, it looks like one of the keys to your success has been just being in the right place at the right time. And to a lot of people, I think it looks like luck. I think you just make it look easy. So would you say like being an opportunist and being willing to do all this hard work is what's gotten you?
Well, I think I have a good track record. Like, people know if they call me and ask me, and will I be able to do it? And I have been in the past. I mean, I think I've even been on tour with St. Vitus, Weed Eater, and Sour Vein, and I think they got into some sort of argument or something. One of the guys dislocated his arm and ended up having to learn 3 Weed Eater songs and play with Weed Eater, on the tour to keep the tour going. So there's just stuff like that, and things of just applying myself. And that's the main thing, is if you sit there and you put the time into it, you'll get back out of it. I wasn't going to show up with everybody looking to see Nick. Nick is one of the main focuses besides Johanna on when you're going to see Lucifer. You're thinking you're going to get to see Nick from the helicopters. And I knew I was going to be under the gun as far as like, oh my God, Nick's not here. Who's this guy or whatever. So I had to make sure I wasn't lacking at all. I needed to look like I was able and I was meant to be there and that. So it was a lot of pressure with that as well. But it's just being prepared and putting the right time and the elbow grease into it that'll get you, the next thing or the next gig or phase of whatever happens,
And it seems like you enjoy the challenge.
I do. And then when I'm in there sitting, because you're just basically sitting there by yourself, blasting through songs at full volume. I usually put the headphones on and I restrict myself into playing. Okay, I got to this part, now I messed up, I have to start over. And I don't like just go over the parts I mess up on over and over again. I make myself go all the way back to the beginning every time, rewind all the way. Even if it's to the end and I've messed up the end, 8, 9, 15, 20 times, I'll still go back and start it over again. And I think there was a lot of tricky things at the end of some of the Lucifer songs that Nick did. Nick's a metal drummer, and he really brought some cool things and a lot of different things that I would have never done. And reasoning why I never figured it out, I think I did afterward, that he also played bass on it. So I had to figure out, oh, wow, he's playing to this instead of where I'm playing to something like this. I'm like, man, why did he do that there? Jesus. And I was just over and over and over. I ended up making notes on my snare because I got tired of going back all the time and doing it. So once I got that and I made the notes, then I got through it, 5, 10, 15, 20 times of watching the notes. And then it just started coming to me naturally, and I was able to figure it out. But I don't know, here's the thing. I try to learn it as close to the record as possible, because the bass player could go, man, I was waiting on you to do that part, or this is my key to do this, or this is this, or this is where I came in the vocals, or this is where I started thinking about the part before I did that, and you didn't do that part. So I didn't want to leave anybody with that on their plate to going, man, I really key off that part. And if I did it, there would be no discretion. It would be exactly what they did. So I try to keep it as close to playing exactly what's on the record as possible, because I don't know what somebody else is looking for, to key them. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest challenge of it all, is making sure you have all the nuances of things to do.
Yeah. Do you use the same kit setup for all of your bands?
Pretty much. I mean, like Lucifer, I had to make my cymbals a little bit smaller because it's not as bombastic as Vitus or something else. It's not as big sound. It was a lot more controlled, so to speak. It wasn't as just loud. It'd be as louder, like, battle of loudness between the whole band, like it was in Vitus or anything else. So I had to simmer it down a little bit and stay in the pocket and more control, rather than just playing, and doing it like I would normally do it. So I did. I went and changed some things up to play with them.
Okay. All right. Tell us about your gear for those people who are knowledgeable about such things. I'm not one of them, but please go ahead and let us know what you're playing.
I usually use just the straight up John Bonham kit with a 26-inch kick drum, 14-inch rack, a 16 floor, and an 18 floor. And I try to use all ride cymbals, because I don't think crashes, just to me, I'll go through them and they're just an endless waste of money and time. And I'm always having to go to the music store and buy stuff because it cracks. So I ended up using all rides all the time. And that's just, to me, it works and it makes it sound better. And I feel really weak when I don't have the big cymbals. So I usually use pretty giant cymbals.
Awesome. I know that John Bonham and other heavy-hitting 70s rock drummers are some of your main influences.
Absolutely. Don Brewer.
Yeah. So is there anyone who's playing now that you are impressed
Oh, yeah.
by?
Joey Castillo. Played with Sugar Tooth. I think he was in Queens of the Stone Age. He's in he's been in a million things. And he's in a punk band right now. Trying to remember what punk band he's in right now. I can't even think of it. Circle Jerks. That's it.
Oh,
yeah, he's
there
in
we
the
go.
Circle Jerks. But I mean, he's got so much fire, and he's a little bit older. I consider myself old. I'll be 58 next month. But he's a little bit older than me, and that dude plays like he runs circles around everybody. I mean, he's just insanely good, and he's real. I think the thing that attracts me to watching him play is his commitment to everything. His commitment to, no matter what part it is, he's 100% all the time. And that's really impressive to see. And I remember I was 29, I may have been mid-30s, mid-30s. And I saw Wino, and Wino was still touring at 40. And I was like, wow, man, that dude's still able to tour when he's that old. And then I don't think I started really getting out and doing things till like I was in my late 30s. And I was like, well, here it comes. And nothing's really, I mean, as I got older, more opportunities came and arose guess because I'm still doing it, I've made my life where I can do it. You know, a lot of
Yeah,
people have jobs. I have a couple of record stores, and it makes it easy where I can just, put people in charge, and I can go do this when I want to do it.
very nice. We're all lucky to we're all lucky to benefit from that as well because we get to enjoy your drumming. It's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we are running out of time. Thank you
Okay.
so much for being here with me. But before we go, did you want to talk about anything else?
No, I think we've covered it all. I mean, I'm looking forward to playing these shows and bringing everybody the new pentagram, and hope that everybody's into it, and hopefully everybody likes the new Legions of Doom, and we'll just see where everything takes us from here. I mean, you're always going to have people that love it, and you're going to have people that hate it. And I just hope the balance, goes to people that like it.
Awesome. If anybody's looking for a drummer, should they hit you up or should they wait a little while?
They always do anyway. It doesn't matter. I think I had to pass. I think Weed Eater's drummer dropped out at the last minute, right when I was headed to Seattle. And my old roommate Jono, I think he was in Moss Generator too. He
Mhm.
went and did it, and they were really happy with him. He's the same kind of guy I am, so I was passed it on to him. But I think they were really pleased with his performance with him. I think he's in Mondo Generator now too. Right now, he's been jamming with Nick.
Both
But
generators.
he's a great drummer, and he's another guy that's really dedicated to everything. And I don't know, it's to be admired, and it's the dedication and the commitment to everything that kind of, I think, is it. You can't deny it, you know.
It's awesome that you're able to recognize your peers for their skills.
Oh,
If anybody wants to give Henry a shout out, pump him up and compliment his skills, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
I'm on all this social media stuff. Anybody can get a hold of me. I'm pretty approachable.
Very nice. Well, I'm glad to hear that because I'll be walking up to you at Ripple Fest to say hello.
Yeah,
Hopefully we'll
that'd be
get
great.
some good, yeah, hopefully we'll get some good live photos of Legions of Doom. And I really look forward to seeing you guys, and hopefully we can do this again. Henry, it's been a pleasure.
You too. Thank you so much. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, no
All right.
problem. You
Have a
have a
good
great
day.
rest of your day. Thanks, man.